好，各位唔該晒嚇。嗱，好啦，最後一兩張啦嚇，唔該晒。好，差唔多，唔該晒嚇。好，唔該。好，唔該晒，唔該曬咁多位啊。OK， 好，歡迎各位。
Welcome, friends of the media, to the press conference on Budget 2026-27. With us today, we have Mr. Paul Chen, Financial Secretary, Mr. Christopher Hui, Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, Mr. Andrew Lai, Permanent Secretary Economist. For the press conference today, we'll first invite the FS to speak, and then we will open the floor for questions. Over to you, Mr. Paul Chen. Friends of the media, citizens, good afternoon. The theme of the latest budget is driving high quality, inclusive growth with innovation and finance. Speeding up the high quality of our economic development is to maintain our competitiveness and to ensure that there will be sustainable economic growth. However, to create better conditions, we have to support people's employment as well as livelihood. We have to grow the pie and make sure that everyone shares the fruit evenly. In the past, we devoted resources into INT and we have yielded results. The prosperous development of the International Financial Center of Hong Kong is our core competitiveness. Building on this, the latest budget proposes speeding up the development of INT. We want to adopt a new mindset to promote new productive forces so that we can better dovetail with the National 15th Five-Year Plan and that we can grasp opportunities. We want to leverage market forces, and together we want to tackle any pain points to unleash the potential for economic growth. This morning, I already touched on the major points of the budget. I'm not going to repeat the details here. Instead, I'm going to explain the rationale behind. First, AI plus finance plus. Using AI to bring about innovative financial development can help us expand capacity and speed up the development progress. This combination means that we want to speed up the development of INT and expand the scale of the industry. We want to, from an AI perspective, expand the resources we have, and together with the markets outside Hong Kong, we want to grow the industry. I will chair a strategy committee on AI. In the initial phase, I will focus on life and health science as well as AI to better promote the development of the industry. We have to grasp the opportunities early. We have to transform the traditional industry using AI. The development of AI will help us enrich ourselves as an international financial center. So this will complement our status as an international financial center. We want to make use of the diversified investment channels as well as our offshore RMB center to empower the industry in order to make our financial industry stronger and bigger. By adopting AI more comprehensively, we will see a structural change. We have to enhance the AI literacy of our labor force. This has to do with our competitiveness as well as the future of the industry. So we have to allocate more resources. That's why we proposed AI for all, from blue collars to white collars, from students to members of the public. We want to comprehensively promote the adoption of AI. Second, we want to support members of the public as well as SMEs in Hong Kong. We're seeing steady growth in our economy, but as we face restructuring, there are uncertainties. Some members of the public as well as enterprises are still facing big challenges. We're seeing improved financial position of the government. As we exercise fiscal prudence, we want to, within our means and capacity, support members of the public as well as SMEs. For example, we have enhanced the basic allowance as well as the allowance for dependent parent and grandparent. We are also enhancing some of the healthcare programs for elderly people, and this involves $22 billion. The sweeteners, compared to the $7.8 billion last year, sees a 1.8 time increase. Also, with an improved public fiscal position, we see greater government revenue. With the stock market boom, the stamp duty we got saw an increase of $32 billion, and the profits tax revenue also increased by $17 billion. By exercising fiscal discipline, we were able to achieve surplus earlier than expected. However, we have to be prepared for the future in order to increase the driving force for our economy. In order to speed up infrastructure programs, including that for the Northern Metropolis, we will issue bonds for financing purpose. Issuing bonds is for investment in the future. The proceeds from bond issuance will only be used for investments. The non-operating accounts will continue to see a deficit, but there are reasons behind that. However, the consolidated account will restore balance. We will achieve consolidated surplus in the coming few years. That's all from me. Let's see if you have any questions.
Please identify your media outlet before you put your questions, and please limit yourself to 2 questions. The female journalist in the last row, please. Good afternoon, I'm from Now TV. My first question, the government recorded a surplus this year. The borrowing limit has been raised to $900 billion for Northern Metropolis. You said that you're investing in the future by issuing bonds. So why are you so confident that the government will be able to generate enough revenue to pay off the bond issued? Regarding the stamp duty for luxury properties, valuing over $100 million, the stamp duty rate will be increased from 4.25 to 6%. Are you testing the waters? Will you raise the stamp duty for for properties of other values? Thank you. Maybe I take more questions. Good afternoon, I'm from Singtao. I'd like to ask about the balance and the accounts. The stamp duty collected from the stock market amount to some $90 billion. But we are only recording surplus by issuing bonds. The government, after all, have to repay the bond issued. So is there any underlying risk? It is the first time in 42 years that we are transferring balance from exchange fund to the government As mentioned in the budget, the fund raised from issuing bonds will be used to repay bonds that are expiring and the interest outstanding. I think that this is a reasonable arrangement. We also have to look at the debt ratio of the SAR government. The outstanding debt to GDP ratio went from 14.4% in 2026 to 19.9% to 2030 to 31. The level is a very healthy one on the international arena. We think that, well, we will hope that the fund raised through issuing bond will be used to support infrastructure investment in the northern metropolis. Because it will take quite some time for us to attract enterprises to set up their presence in the northern metropolis after we make our investment. The stamp duty for luxury property is raised, and we are raising stamp duty for those valued more than $100 million. We want to adopt this users pay principle to increase government revenue. Well, there are two types of government accounts. First, operating accounts, and second, capital account. For operating account, it's like our account that is used to collect salary, and we use that account to pay out our daily expenses, say tuition for our children. We do have a surplus for this account. That is our operating account. Forecast, we will maintain a surplus in the operating account. For capital account, it is used to invest market begin to stabilize, and while commercial property market needs time to rebound. We need to, however, grasp the opportunities posed by northern metropolis. We want to introduce more enterprises and industries to the metropolis. Given the situation, we're of the view that we need to issue bonds so that we can invest in the transport infrastructures in the northern metropolis to make things more convenient for our people. This will also allow us to attract more enterprises and industries to the metropolis. As for the transfer of fund from the exchange fund, over the past fiscal year, the fund recorded an investment income of $330 billion. We are only transferring $150 billion from the exchange fund to the Capital Works Reserve Fund in 2 years' time. We have taken into account the purpose of the exchange fund. Scale of the exchange fund is $4.1 trillion. As I mentioned, $150 billion to be transferred is only half of the investment income. That is $330 billion we recorded last year. We built infrastructures in the northern metropolis. That is a form of investment. We are not transferring money from the exchange fund to make payment for our recurrent expenditure. We are just investing in our future. I will ask the Permanent Secretary to elaborate. Thank you, Secretary. When we decided on the transferring of $150 billion from the exchange fund, we talked to the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. Under the exchange fund ordinance, there are strict restrictions on transfer. First of all, we have to make sure that the fund transferred will not undermine or affect the purpose of exchange fund in maintaining the exchange value of Hong Kong dollars and the integrity of our financial market. So as this financial secretary said, our stability will not be undermined by the transfer. Second, we are acting in accordance with the exchange fund ordinance. That is, at all time, we will make sure that the exchange fund has enough balance to make repayment of 105%. We can more than fulfill this requirement. That's why we are actually just acting in accordance with the law. Thank you. Next question, please. The female journalist nearer to me, please. Good afternoon. I'm from Economic Journal. The government has not set aside an amount for the adjustment of civil service pay. There are views saying that the civil servants are able to enjoy a salary raise automatically every year. What is your view? The newborn baby bonus scheme will be expiring in October this year. There's no mention of it in the budget. So are we going to terminate the baby bonus scheme? Why don't you set that out in the budget? Let's take one more question first. The female journalist in the second last row in the jacket. Good afternoon from TVB. We do have a surplus, and I see that the government is giving out sweeteners. Despite that, we don't have consumption vouchers. The government is not giving out money. It seems that the members of the public are quite disappointed. Not everyone can share the fruits of with the prosperity of our economy. I'd like to ask about the proposal of allowing people to withdraw balance from MPF to purchase flats. The financial secretary said before that they would consider it. Will you implement it in the future? Thank you.
On the point about civil rate are government-funded organizations. They make adjustment to their pay based on the civil service pay adjustment. So there are close connections between the two. A lot of organizations in the private sectors also draw reference from the civil service pay adjustment. So this will not just have an impact on civil servants. Indeed, for normal employees in the private sector, there will be an impact on them as well. In this regard, we think that over the past 6 years, we saw a pay freeze in 3 of the years. We see that we are seeing an improved fiscal position, and the earnings of general employees have increased. So we will, in accordance with the established mechanism, do what we need to do. As to whether there needs to be an adjustment of the civil service pay, the C-in Council will consider the 6 factors before it makes the decision. We find this practice appropriate. Just now, there was a question about consumption vouchers. During the consultation period, we got many different views. We have seen a lot of mega events in Hong Kong recently. Under the CSTB, there will be lots of events lining up covering sports activities as well as large-scale events. There will also be large-scale exhibitions. We believe that we will see lots of Hong Kong this year. Also, as the employment market stabilizes and that people's earnings increase, well, we also see great performance in the asset markets as well as the stock market, and the property market is stabilizing as well. We believe that people would be more willing to spend. Given the current situation, we think that it might not be the most appropriate time for us to roll out consumption vouchers, however. As for the newborn baby bonus, as you mentioned, it will expire in November this year. We have the budget announced and there will be the policy address for next year. We will review the effectiveness of the newborn baby bonus scheme before we make a decision. As for whether people can withdraw the MPF funds for purchasing homes, we have consulted the LegCo members and we have studied the matter ourselves as well. The ultimate purpose of the MPF scheme is to provide retirement protection for the public. On one hand, there are views that there are ups and downs in the real estate market, but from the SAR government's perspectives, we are happy to see that there is stable development in the real estate market. However, we brace for any potential ups and downs. Also, we have to take into account that the MPF funds for every employee may vary. So after considering different factors, we believe that at this stage, we shouldn't make any adjustment to the MPF policy. We have to continue to allow MPF to serve as retirement protection for people. Thank you. We'll take the next question. The reporter closer to me, the male reporter in green.
It's from the South China Morning Post. Firstly, the government has ruled out using the exchange fund in 2021, warning of severe consequences at the time. Could you explain why the government thinks it's okay to use the exchange fund now? And also, what are the potential risks you see in making this move? And could you also explain the government's motivation in streamlining the government's various funds in this budget? Secondly, on tax policy, the government said they will set up a committee chaired by you to review Hong Kong's tax policy. What is the government's direction in this committee? And are you planning to increase the tax base? And if so, could you give some specifics on how you're going to go about it? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you know, the main purpose of exchange fund is to defend Hong Kong's financial stability and our financial system. Last year, the exchange fund made an investment income of over 300 billion. Now that we are transferring from exchange fund about half of it, 150 billion, in 2 installments, commencing from 26-27. Having regard to the current size of the exchange fund, which is over 4,100 billion, and considering that we are just taking half of their income earned last year back to the government, also for investment purposes. We do think this is a considered prudent move. We are very confident that given our various measures in place and the strong buffer of the exchange fund, we would be able to weather any volatility or even attack to our financial system. In terms of tax policy, what I have proposed is to set up a group of advisors comprising mainly people from the business and professional sectors. And the purpose of this advisory committee is to look at the tax competitiveness of Hong Kong, because over the years, various jurisdictions roll out different incentive measures, tax measures, trying to compete for investments and businesses. And globally, under OECD, there are also certain global requirements about minimum tax, about BEPS 2.0. So taking this into consideration, we do think perhaps we should set up an advisory group focused on how to use tax policy as a competitive tool in terms of attracting business, attracting investment, growing our economy. It is not going to touch upon our current tax system. So things like GST, VAT would not be the ambit of this committee.
我哋下一條提問啦嚇，咁咧喺遠處尾二嗰排白色衫戴眼鏡。
The journalist in white, the second last row, please.
The budget earmarks 220 million Hong Kong dollars to establish the first national manufacturing innovation center outside the Chinese mainland. So could you please clarify the center's positioning, proposed location, operational model, and the expected timeline for implementation? Which advanced manufacturing sectors or new quality productive forces will it prioritize? And given that this will be the first such center outside the Chinese mainland, what's its difference from existing national manufacturing innovation centers within the mainland? Will it focus in particular on strengthening international cooperation? Thank you.
Well, you know, under the fifth national five-year plan, of course, at the moment, it is still recommendation stage. High quality development is the underlying tone. And in terms of high quality development, two major underlying guiding principles. Of course, one is green development. The other is technological innovation and about technology self-reliance. The way we look at it, Hong Kong has a unique role in this respect because of the one country, two systems arrangement. We are in the best position to attract the top talent from all over the world, to use Hong Kong as a base, to do research, to collaborate, and to find application scenarios. So that is why we set up this center. The positioning is to look at frontier technology, particularly AI, health tech, and using Hong Kong's unique positioning under the one country, two system. The objective is to attract both international as well as mainland top scientists, engineers, researchers to come to Hong Kong to collaborate, to explore research in the frontier technologies. Yeah. Thank you.
好，下一條提問下，咁咧喺
Next question. The journalist in pink, please. Thank you. I'm from Shenzhen Satellite TV. It was said earlier that we're going to promote the development of the Northern Metropolis, and we are going to drive advanced technology. Is this a new form of land policy? Will the government consider using other means to promote the market, and how does the market react? Second, on the Hetao Corporation Zone Hong Kong Park and the cross-boundary flow of biosamples, the government is going to create a whitelist. What are the challenges that we have to overcome? And if we can implement this whitelist, what kind of benefits would it bring? The Northern Metropolis is an important driving force for Hong Kong, and it is reflected in our layout. We have this south-north dual engine of finance and INT. Our university's research capabilities is top-notch. We have a great pool of talents. At the same time, in the Northern Metropolis, we have a comprehensive advanced manufacturing and industry chain. As a result, it is our goal to develop INT in the Northern Metropolis, and this is how we promote the economic development of Hong Kong and take it to the next stage. An important point in developing INT is having enterprises and industry. With top-notch enterprises, we'll be able to attract talents, and with talents, we can attract top-notch enterprises. When we have leading enterprises here, we will create an industry. That's the idea behind developing INT in the Northern Metropolis. Real estate developers can work with INT enterprise or manufacturers. They can develop together a single piece of land. Developers provide land resources, and when they work with corporations, they offer a different kind of resources, that is industrial resources. As we promote industrial development, we want to speed up the progress of collaboration between developers and enterprises. We can have a tripartite collaboration among the enterprises, the government, and the developers. This is our plan. Thank you. Regarding the Hetao Corporation Zone Hong Kong Park, Hetao is an important platform for Hong Kong and Shenzhen's collaboration. On the one hand, there are two sides to Hetao and the loop, and we have to make good use of the resources on both sides. I talked about the cross-boundary flow of materials, capital, and data. That's how we give full play to Hong Kong's advantages. When you're in Shenzhen, it's difficult for you to obtain overseas data. In general, it's difficult for us to obtain biosamples from the mainland. But as you enter a dedicated zone in Hetao, you will be able to obtain data, samples from both sides for your clinical trial. We have the support from our country. The mainland will establish a branch of the approving authority there. Well, we will have the same on the Hong Kong side. We'll look at areas on research, manufacturing, medication, new healthcare equipment. When we have the two branches on both sides, the vetting process will be shortened. and the products can be sold elsewhere in a more speedy manner. The female journalist here. Good afternoon. From RTHK. I'd like to ask about the exchange fund of transferring the $150 billion to the Capital Works Project Fund. It seems that the investment income is quite good, and it is said that we have a balance of $780 billion. Is that true? Will you make another transfer in the future? Making another one, well, another transfer. And the mechanism in transferring fund to reserve, is there a need to make the investment income of the exchange fund, well, the cumulative investment income amount to a few $100 billion. As I said, last year we earned $330 billion in the exchange fund. This is another form of investment too. That's why we are transferring $150 billion from the exchange fund to invest in another metropolis in 2 separate years. We are not planning to make it a regular thing. We've considered the scale, the purpose of the exchange fund, along with our demand. That's why we made the move. You ask about if we will make any adjustment to the accounting arrangement. I will ask the Permanent Secretary to elaborate. Thank you. The reserve of the government is transferred to the exchange fund for investment. Our agreement with the exchange fund is that we make the calculation based on the average in past 6 years. So we used 4.4% for the calculation. We think that there is benefits to such a calculation because investment income of the exchange fund may fluctuate because the market moves up and down. So we think that is more predictable and more suitable for us to use the 6 years average to calculate the government revenue.
規劃嗰方面呢，
With regards to the question about the 5-year plan, as we all know, it's been quite a long time for the country to develop its 5-year plans. We believe that with the 5-year plan, we'll be able to have a direction and we will see sustainability as well as consistencies in terms of our implementation of policies. Under the leadership of the Chief Executive, the SAR government will formulate its first 5-year plan. And the Chief Executive himself will lead all policy bureaus as well as secretaries to formulate this plan, and we will announce further details on this later. And the last row on the far side, the female journalist. Good afternoon, FS. I'd like to ask about the exchange fund. You said that there was investment income, but since the handover of Hong Kong, we haven't seen in any transfer of the exchange fund. And FS, you mentioned that the geopolitical situation is complicated. And I wonder if by transferring the exchange fund, will it have any impact on our financial system? Now on to one for court. $4 billion will be set aside to help the victims. And after the acquisition, will you get any compensation from fire insurance? And what will be the actual resettlement plan be? Also, if you decide to acquire all the property rights, how much will it take? On the question about the exchange fund, we have for the exchange fund. If you take a step back, you have to consider that we have a considerable amount of investment income from the exchange fund, and we have to invest in the future, not just in the Northern Metropolis project, but also on the transport infrastructure. We also need money for site formations, so we'll need a lot of money for the medium forecast. You see that every year we allocate about $120 to $130 billion for public works projects. Of course, the government can issue bonds to finance the infrastructure projects. However, if there is a considerable amount of investment income from the exchange fund, should we consider transferring part of the exchange fund for investing in the future, that is our infrastructure projects? So we have to adopt a holistic approach as we make considerations. We should not look at the infrastructure projects individually. Before we decide to transfer the exchange fund, we have already looked at the scale of the exchange fund as well as the impact if we transfer the exchange fund. So we are very confident that we'll be able to withstand any impact on our financial system. Our financial system will not be affected by having half of the exchange fund transferred to our capital works reserve fund. As for the question about Wang Fuk Court, the government has recently announced the long-term housing plan for the Wang Fuk Court victims. In terms of our financial plan, the latest proposal is that we have about $4 billion under the Wang Fuk Court Support Fund. Netting out the expenditure, we will be able to set aside $2.8 billion from the support fund for long-term resettlement plan. According to this year's budget, the government is reserving $4 billion from the public coffers to support the Wang Fuk Court residents. This is for the redevelopment plan. We're going to rehouse residents from all 7 blocks of Wang Fuk Court. It will involve $6.8 billion, that is about $1 billion per block of residents. As for the 8th block, that is Wang Qi block, Wang Qi House, if the residents there accept the government's arrangement, it will be an additional $1 billion of expenditure. As for the long-term housing plan, we will have to look at the response of the Wang Fuk Court residents. Yes, close to me, the journalist over there. Good afternoon, FS. I am from Phoenix TV. I have 2 questions. First, about Northern Metropolis. You said you are going to work with developers as well as enterprises, and that there will be a tripartite collaboration. Is this a suggestion from the industry, or is it proposed by the government? Will this tripartite partnership mechanism be a regular one? Will there be a timetable for the government to reveal the details of your tripartite mechanism? Because the Northern Metropolis project involves public interests. Also, in relation to the government surplus, there will be some $200 billion. We see volatility in the one major source for you to support the expenditure. Yes, I'll defer to Mr. Christopher Ho. About gold trading, in the policy address as well as the budget, there is a dedicated chapter about this. We are adopting a multi-pronged approach. want to build a gold trading ecosystem. First, we need storage. The crux of commodity trading is that we need warehouses and storage. It is not just a financial project. That's why in the coming year, our goal is to commence operation of the settlement company. We have to take into consideration financial products, gold futures of Hong Kong Stock Exchange, as well as ETF. Fourth, we have to take into consideration tax arrangements as well. In this budget, the FS proposes to roll out tax incentives for eligible institutions conducting gold trading and settlement in Hong Kong. Fifth, we need talent for market operation. As mentioned, we are going to build a new market and new ecosystem. So we're going to speed up the work of the trade associations as well as speed up the training of talents so that we can build a talent pool in this regard.
As for the tripartite collaboration among the government, developers, and enterprises, we will definitely announce projects that have been completed. When it comes to land, we have always been transparent. Our primary goal is to combine a capable government with the efficient market. Developers have land in industrial development. They know the market better. And when they come to the government can also take part in the collaboration. That's how we combine a capable government with an efficient market. Second, you ask if our surplus will fluctuate in the future and if the government revenue will change. Let's put it this way. Part of our revenue is rather stable. Part of it is pegged to the performance of the equity market and the economy. You may have noticed that in the past couple of years, we experienced the COVID, the trade war. So you can see that our economy is rather resilient, and Hong Kong people are very agile, very flexible in face of changes and challenges. Take the profit tax as an example. In the past couple of years, the retail and restaurant or catering industries are having a much difficult time, but the trade and finance industries are performing better. So you can see that our economy is very resilient. However, our land sale revenue is highly pegged to the performance of the equity or asset market. That's why the income is rather low in the past 2 years. The stock market performed quite well in these 2 years. And we were off to a great start in 2026 as well in terms of our equity market. So we project our GDP using last year as the basis. That's how we come up with the projection in this year's budget. We have to, of course, retain certain balance to tackle unforeseeable circumstances. Regarding our economy in the upcoming few years, I will ask our government economist, Ms. Fan, to talk about that. Thank you, Secretary. Good afternoon. A very large part of our income is closely connected to the performance of our economy. We expect that certain global trend will impact our future economic development. So in terms of the global economic layout, we see that economies outside of the United States are looking to collaborate. We see the rise of the global south, and this poses a new growth points and highlights for development. This year marks the beginning of the 15th five-year plan. The policies in the budget align with those set out in the 15th five-year plan. So we expect that in 2026, we project a GDP growth of 2.5 to 3.5%. This is a cautiously optimistic figure, and from 2027 to 2030, we expect the real growth of our economy to be at some 3%. So if the economy continue to grow steadily, we are of the view that we will be able to secure a good revenue from income tax and profit tax. In the interest of time, let's take the last 2 to 3 questions. The Mail journalist. Good afternoon, from Ming Pao. I have 2 questions. First, we're going to transfer some balance from the exchange fund to invest in the Northern Metropolis. Is this how we achieve a breakthrough mindset suggested by some mainland authorities? And what is the total expenditure that we're going to spend on the Northern Metropolis? We had some belt tightening measures announced in the past couple of years. We canceled the student grant, and it was not revived in this year's budget. So has your financial philosophy changed? Will the government hand out more sweeteners as the government fiscal position improves in the future? Some people may criticize you for when the economy was not good, but not giving out sweeteners and when things improve. Thank you. The scale of our infrastructure investment in the Northern Metropolis, well, perhaps let me put it this way. Now, in terms of our investment in the Capital Works project, it amount to about $120 to $130 billion. Second, among these Capital Works projects, there will be transport infrastructures, including the Hong Kong Central connection. Regarding your question on the exchange fund, we recorded an investment income of some $330 billion. We're only transferring half of it to invest in the transport infrastructures and other forms of facilities in the Northern Metropolis and some other places. You talked about so having considered our fiscal position at that time, the SAR government canceled the student grant. However, eligible families can still apply for other forms of subsidy. As for the so-called sweeteners, there are diverging views in the community on this. Take the past 2 years an example. People are stressed, and that's why they want support from the government. We have to strike a balance. So in terms of tax allowance, we have made certain adjustment this year. At the same time, we are going to give an extra 1-month allowance for grassroots family. We only gave out half a month extra allowance in the past 2 years. We want to take good care of our grassroots people. We also want to address the needs of the middle class where we can. Thank you. In the interest of time, the last question, please. The journalist in curly hair, please. Good afternoon. I'm from Commercial Radio. The 1-for-1 replacement scheme for electric vehicles will be canceled. Will the people's motivation to change to EVs be affected? Why don't you cut it progressively? I'd like to ask about the injection of some $3 billion to support the Operation Building Bright 2.0.
For private electric cars, the tax concessions have been rolled out for years. At first, there were not many types of EVs and they were rather expensive. But nowadays, there are many different kinds of EVs and they feature various functions and they are a lot more comfortable than those rolled out before, and they are also much cheaper. So we believe that these EVs are quite competitive. We have rolled out the 1-for-1 scheme for quite a number of years, and we believe that it's time to conclude the scheme. For newly registered cars, about 70% of them are EVs. So having considered the market and the development of EVs, we think that it's time to cut the scheme. As for the Operation Building Bright 2.0 scheme, there are quite a number of old buildings in Hong Kong that require repair and maintenance. It is with this scheme that we can ensure that these buildings are safe to live in, and we also want to ensure a comfortable living environment for members of the public. There's not much money left for the Operation Building Bright scheme. We think that there are still many buildings aged 30 and 40 years or above in Hong Kong. So we need to allocate resources to the scheme, and the Development Bureau will tell the public how we'll be able to make good use of the additional funding under the scheme. Also, we are concerned about building safety. Therefore, we are injecting another $1 billion to extend the lift modernization subsidy scheme, and this is part of our measures to enhance building safety. This is the end of the press conference today. Thank you for attending the press conference. Thank you for attending this press conference.